clients came to career coaching 7 years into his PhD, and he still didn't have a first author paper, and he wasn't on track to submit one either. And his first question was, why didn't anyone else tell me before now that I don't have enough data to get my PhD? And maybe to them it was obvious. It certainly was obvious to me, but it wasn't obvious to him. He didn't know that until now. In his particular case, we were able to find a solution. We broke his super ambitious project down into 3 separate lower profile papers. He got his PhD from Stanford, and he got a job that he loves as a banker. But that first session was so painful for him and also for me. I looked at his publication plan and I was just like, I don't know if I can help him. The gap between where he is now and where he wants to go is so huge, and no one told him that for years. I do not want any PhD students or postdocs to be in that situation, especially yours. And that's why I wrote my 3-step protocol for giving helpful feedback, and we're gonna go through it together step by step. If we haven't met yet, I'm Kathy Charasia. I'm a physicist and a career coach for brilliant scientists who are at a career transition. My job is to help you cross that energy barrier by defining your goals and writing down a strategy to reach them, so that you can create a career and therefore a life that you love. But every scientific career requires you to be a good boss, not a mentor, a boss, as in you hired that person, and if their work is not where it needs to be, it's your professional responsibility to help them improve their science. And if you're a people person like me, that's my scientific superpower. This skill comes easily to you. But if that's not your scientific strength, giving great feedback is a skill that you must learn. And if you don't know whether you're a people person like me, I created the Scientific Superpower Quiz just for you. Go to kathy.science/quiz to find out what your strengths are. As usual, my 3-step protocol for giving great feedback to your group is simple but not easy. Step 1. Be kind. But what does that actually mean? When I tell a new person on my team to just do what you want, I trust you, I think that's being kind. I think that's a marker of my confidence in her, otherwise I wouldn't have hired her, and I'm giving her freedom. She thinks that that's a reason to panic, because what she wants is actually guidance, feedback, and review. As a scientist, I think that I'm being a good boss when I tell her, you know how to do your job. Come to me if you have a problem. Because it's normal to tell your postdocs, I know you'll figure out this new thing, but come to me if you need help with strategy. But if someone on your team is not meeting your expectations because they either, 1, don't know what your expectations are, or 2, don't have the scientific skill set to do that project well, then giving instructions, feedback, and final approval is the kindest thing that you could actually do for them. Why? I have a friend who was born in Sicily, and one day at dinner he was telling us this story where his father took him out in a boat to the middle of the sea and dumped him in and was just like, swim! I'm here, while standing on the boat. When you are in a role that requires a PhD, like a postdoc, you just learn how to swim because you have those skills and you know how to apply them to a new problem. We literally have a degree in solving new problems. But if you don't have your PhD yet, or maybe you're a postdoc in a new field, you don't have the training you need to just swim. You need instructions, otherwise it's stressful. So if you throw a scientist into the ocean like, swim, if you need help, I'm here, and they're drowning, you're gonna have to jump in and teach them a few strokes. And if this sounds like it could be you, schedule 3 to 5 one-on-ones with them, depending on their career stage. Meet with them every other week or so to look at their data and try to figure out where they're stuck so that you can help them get unstuck. And if it's your senior postdoc and you disagree with their approach, sit down to explain your perspective. For example, Remus, my second postdoc advisor, he was telling me, okay, but let's just buy this beam combiner because I thought that it was way too expensive and I could just build a cheaper and better beam combiner myself. And he pointed out, okay, but you only have a couple of years to get all this stuff done. So this is a better use of your time. We have the money and we have to spend it. And the people in my lab are not all physicists, so they won't be able to use your fantastically gorgeous, amazing beam combiner. As a strategic decision, this makes much more sense, both for me, for my lab, for our resources, for the other people, for the longevity of the lab. And then I understood, oh yeah, he's right, let's just buy this beam combiner. And that was a great decision. Coherence beam combiner is gorgeous. And the kind thing to do is to explain that the purpose of these 3 to 5 additional meetings is to help them reach their career goals. It's not about you. It's about making sure that they get their PhD on time or they start their faculty search or whatever their career goals are. I know you're busy and your schedule is totally full and these meetings cost you time. But remember, you're doing this for them, for their success, which, as we discussed last week, is also your success. Some of my clients get so wrapped up in being nice to their PhD students who don't have data or their postdocs who haven't started their faculty searches that they forget step number 2, which is to be honest. And these 2 steps, kindness and honesty, often, but not always, go hand in hand. And what does that mean, be honest? It means no shit sandwich. You might have learned that in some management course somewhere, but guess what? It's wrong. It doesn't work for scientists. I've yet to see it work for anyone. I forbid the shit sandwich. Why? You're having these meetings because their publication record or their funding record or their faculty search is not on track for them to achieve their career goals. So it's not helpful to start with Great Western blot last week and end with PCR looks good though. And if this sounds like it could be you, start by acknowledging that this sucks. We all agree that when, not if, when your experiments aren't working, you can't label your DNA, your papers keep getting rejected, you're interviewing to a grand total of 0 offers. It's so damn stressful, but it's also a normal part of being a scientist. A successful scientific career is not every single project worked. A successful scientific career is defined by I found a different way to make it work. And that's where you come in with step 3, be direct. Your role as a group leader is not create more copies of you. That only works if it's Zhao Wei Zhang. Your role as a group leader is to help your PhD students and postdocs get where they want to go. So be clear and direct about what's required to get there. If you want to be a PI in this field, you need 3 high-profile first author papers and independent funding for each stage of your career. So you've got a Cell paper, a Baby Nature, NIH funding for your PhD. Okay, let's figure out how you can achieve the rest of the things that you need in 2 years as a postdoc in my lab. And do not promise that they'll get there if they do this when it's not actually in your control. You cannot say if you do these experiments, then therefore this project will get published. And you can't say if you do achieve all these things, then you will get a faculty position. And if this sounds like it could be you, what you can say instead is, okay, this is a smart approach, but your project still might not work. Okay, no problem. What you can do instead is focus on this smaller, simpler project so that you can still get your PhD on time. Or even if you do get these papers and the ERC, you still might not get a faculty position in Amsterdam. Learn Python instead so you can use that to get a job that you love. If a PhD student or a postdoc in your lab is not making the scientific progress that they need in order to achieve their career goals, that's a red flag that you might need to jump in order to stop them from drowning. Every scientist is responsible for their own career decisions, but they joined your lab to learn something new, and we all need a little extra intervention sometimes, especially me. For example, Remus, my postdoc advisor, he gave me a year extension because I started my faculty search a bit too late. And in fact, this morning, my client was telling me that she has a great postdoc who is leaving her lab this summer, and he's looking for faculty positions. And the best thing that she could do to support his career is give him an extension. But she doesn't have the funding to do that. She needs to write an ERC advance, and she was a bit concerned that it could be a teeny tiny bit late to start that now. And she's right, the deadline is right around the corner. And just in case this is also a problem for you, next week we're going to discuss how long it really takes to write a big grant like that.